Mitch, what went into not deciding to extend Miles Bridges, and is he still in your plans for the future?
We love Miles Bridges, but you've really got to do it through the draft.
The Charlotte Hornets select Miles Bridges, P.J. Washington Jr., LaMelo Ball from Chino Hills, California.
You have to do it through savvy trades.
Terry Rozier! How do
So the goal
you
is to
do?
get something together that wins games
On the Hornets, Hayward is a franchise-level player.
and get you into the playoffs, and then from there you go.
This year, our core is locked in and ready to
Got the
fly.
head up. Who does he want? He wants Bridges!
From our Rookie of the Year, LaMelo Ball, to Miles Bridges and P.J. Washington,
Gotcha!
with veterans Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier. Oh, but we're not done yet. Mix in crafty veterans and top draft picks, and that's a roster that demands attention. Looking at all those names, you know what time.
I spoke to him yesterday, and I told him that. I'm not sure he needed to hear it again, but I did tell him that. He's a young player that continues to improve. I think the second half of last season, he really made a jump. Now, we weren't a very good team last year, so, you could look at it and say, well, if you're having a great year and you're on a really good team, then, there's a certain value to that. And then you're having a really good season and you're a really bad team, there's a certain right value to that too. And you kind of have to sort through it. In summary, we did have conversations with his representative up until, I would guess you'd say, the last minute. And the decision was made to let's just wait and see how the season plays out. And we'll approach it again in the spring. Okay, well, good morning. As everybody knows, today is, opening day for the Hornets, and we're excited. 3 weeks after camp starts, you get to play a real game. And I know our players are excited. I'm hopeful tonight that we'll be at full strength. And it's the beginning. It's the beginning of a season. I've had a lot of these, and they're all exciting. The first game is great to win, right? But it doesn't define your season. So we're hopeful that we play well, the fans come out, and then we move on, right? So got games this weekend. But we're excited, and if anybody has any questions, before the season starts, I'd be happy to answer them.
Mitch, Steve Reed from Associated Press. First of all, thank you guys for all you're doing for Rick Bonnell, who a lot of us knew very well, obviously. Secondly, do you got a win total, an expectation that you want for this season?
Well, I don't think we have a win total. Expectation-wise, I think we're more talented. We've added young talent into the system, and we've added 3 veterans to last year's team. So I think we're a more talented team. I would expect us to have a better season, this year than we did last year. I know the bar publicly has been raised, and expectations are maybe content for a playoff spot. I think that's realistic. Having said that, even though I know we're a more talented team, I also know that everybody in the East has gotten better as well. So for me, I would hope we have a better season than we did last year. I would hope that, our coach and our players play and coach as hard as they possibly can, leave everything on the floor. And I would also hope that our young players, especially the ones that don't play, continue to get development, work in Greensboro, so that we continue to build something that we can sustain going forward. I'm hopeful that when we do get into the playoffs, that we can advance in the playoffs, not just get in and be happy you got in and you lose and it's done. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, but that's how I look at the season.
Obviously, there was a lot of injuries and absences during the preseasons, and it seemed like, kind of building the chemistry and continuity was maybe a challenge this last couple of weeks. What do you, as a general manager, look to see now that the team's kind of all put together, like you said, hopefully healthy these first few weeks of the season? What do you kind of, I guess, is normal to kind of keep an eye on?
Yeah, well, we've had 4 preseason games, right? And we've won 1 and we've lost 3. One we lost by a whole lot of points, right? So part of you says, well, it's preseason and it doesn't matter. But part of you says, well, it does matter, right? So looking back on the last three weeks, I've seen a lot of good stuff. In any event, you don't like to lose games, right? So everything matters. But right now, the most important thing for us, towards the end of last week, we started getting back all our players, from health and safety protocol and some injury. And then the last 2 days, everybody's practiced. So putting aside the 3 weeks, you want to say, okay, it's preseason, let's just move on. But I don't think you can ever just leave it alone. You learn something from everything. And I would hope that we learn something from a big loss and 3 weeks of training camp when we're able to talk.
We'll go to Scott Holler on Zoom.
Did you say me, Mike? I couldn't.
Yeah, go ahead, Scott. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mitch, and also I want to echo what Steve said. Thanks so much for everything you and Mike and the PR people and the whole organization have done to honor Rick and we really appreciate that, the Charlotte Observer, so thank you. And I wanted to ask you specifically about LaMelo and about Gordon Hayward, your expectations, hopes, dreams for both of them this season.
Well, Melo last year was Rookie of the Year, right? And I've seen Rookies of the Year in their second and third year make big jumps, and I've seen Rookie of the Years not make big jumps. Okay, how this plays out for him, we don't know. He works, he's in the gym, he loves the game, he's got energy. There's no reason why this year he doesn't have a better year than he had last year. He is young. Right? It's not like he's been in the league 5 or 7 years. This is his second year. And he left, I guess Australia after what would have been his freshman year. Gordon is a proven veteran. I think he's borderline all-star probably every year he was healthy in the NBA. And certainly that was the case last year. And we played our best basketball, when he was healthy last year. So for him, the expectation and hope is that he can get through the season healthy. He provides stability for us on the court, a veteran that can do so many different things that a lot of our players can't do. Of course he can score, but, he can play make, he's got leadership. He stabilizes the team on the offensive side and to some degree on the defensive side. We know what he's going to bring to the table. For us, once again, it's, can he get through the season healthy? He's had a great preseason. There was a setback with health and safety protocol, but knock on wood, he's been very healthy. And some of the things we did during the offseason, were designed, to give him some backup time. In other words, maybe he doesn't have to play 35 minutes a game. Maybe he can play 28 to 32, and somebody that we put into the game, can keep us afloat until he returns.
Mitch, do you feel like you've added, Kelly, some other guys, do you feel like you're better defensively this year than you were a year ago?
Well, Kelly was the player I was referring to that would back up, Gordon. I think he can play multiple positions, but primarily, I think he'll give Gordon and us, a chance, to maybe keep the ship afloat when Gordon goes out for a break or a blow. Overall, I think we've added a lot of length and athleticism to the team. A lot of it, comes from the rookie crop, right? And I don't know how much they're going to play, if at all. But our rookies have really added, at least in training camp, great length, great athleticism. And on the defensive side of the ball, I think down the road, they can really make us a good defensive team. Kelly, defensively, is going to help us. I think he can play multiple positions. Adding Ish, a veteran, I think he can help us, on both sides of the ball. And then, of course, Mason, Plumlee. I think he could give us, a little bit of rim protection. Great size, big, strong player, that can defend. I still wouldn't say we're a great rebounding team or a great rim protecting team. We've got players in the system at some point that can do that and help us. Nick Richards certainly can rim protect. Kai Jones can do that. Vern Carey can do it. But they're young players that may or may not get on the court this year. We'll have to wait and see.
Just kind of dovetailing off that, the Plumlee deal basically gives you 2 years to try and get the front court right with the young bigs. What have you seen from the progression of those young bigs, and also how Mason fits kind of into JV's defensive philosophy?
Well, Mason fits in right away. He's a veteran that will help us offensively with the offense, but will also, give us athleticism, size, some rim protection. I don't know how much of the other players, that I mentioned will actually get into a game this year. Nick Richards has played some minutes in the preseason. I will say that I think he made a jump from last year to this year. He's gotten better. Vern Carey, will continue to work, and improve. And I like our rookies, but they're only rookies, and I just don't know how often they'll get in the game.
Mitch, what's your initial thoughts on book night? Has he been what you, as advertised, or what you thought, or better, or what does he need to work on to?
Pretty much what we thought. He's talented. I don't think in the long run he's going to have a problem scoring in this league. The NBA pace, and especially the way we've tried to play in the preseason, I think is an adjustment, to him. Coming out of UConn, I think, like a lot of kids that are really, really good players in college, the offense is focused on them, and they have the ability to create, probe, slow the game down, speed it up, at their will, right? But at this level, it's a little bit of an adjustment. We don't depend, on one player to create the pace for us. And we do want to play a game that's fast and up and down. So that's an adjustment, for him. I think he's shown preseason, in most of the games that he'll be able to score in this league. But he's young, right? I mean, he's just another young player. I believe, I'm not sure, but I think we have 6 players on this team, 21 and younger. I'm looking at Mike. I think that's pretty close. So, when you look at it that way, right? Years and years ago, you didn't come to the NBA until after your senior year. You were 23. And now we've got 6 under 21, and some of them have been in the league multiple years already. So you'll have to wait on them.
In terms of, you used the term last year at the deadline that you were ahead of schedule, you made the Wanamaker deal. In terms of what you need to see from this team through the first 3-4 months, how will that determine, or what will determine your level of aggression at the deadline to say, go for it, get to a certain point, maybe make a bigger type deal? What will determine your aggression at the trade deadline?
Well, in general, I think we have to be careful, not to get ahead of ourselves and, make a move that we're not ready for. In other words, make a move that maybe gets you into the first round, but you're going to lose, and then it hurts you next year. And those kinds of moves normally involve veterans. In other words, trying to bring a veteran onto the team to try to get you to win that extra game or two. So I think we've got to be careful, not to do that. I have no idea, what our record's going to look like, in 2 or 3 months. I really don't. And like I said, a lot of it has to do with everybody else in the East getting better. I'm most concerned, that if we play hard every game, I know our coach is going to coach hard every game, I think we'll win our fair share. But, you don't get answers really, right, until, middle of December, end of December. At this time of the year, every GM loves their team, and we're all undefeated. And when January rolls around, then you get a better feel, for what you really are.
Feels like the roster this year is the first time that all the players, I guess, were added after you were brought onto the organization. Is that, I guess, for roster development, sort of a benchmark? And is it, I guess, where is the team at in terms of the vision that you initially had when you joined the organization 3 years ago compared to what it is now?
Yeah, we didn't do that by design. It came about, I guess, a month or so ago, just looking at the roster. I realized that, Miles Bridges, was the only player, and we drafted him my first year here, that is still on that team from my first year. My first year, we did try to, well, from my personal point of view, I needed my first year here, right? I had to assess the talent that was here. We had a lot of veterans, on contracts that they earned, quite frankly. And of course, we had Kemba. So our goal was to find out how good we can be and get into the playoffs. Okay, that was important. And then we realized, even with Kemba, right, that we weren't a playoff team. So at that point, we decided to take a different approach to the next year or two. And, we had to wait a little bit to, let the contracts clear up, give us some financial flexibility. You only get a first-round pick every year, so you got to wait 2 or 3 years to add 2 or 3 first-round picks. So it takes, some time, even though you make the decision to, go in a different direction with your team. In other words, move on from a veteran team that you think or hope would make the playoffs to trying to build something that you could count on every year that's going to get better and sustain. It takes 2 or 3 years to do that. You can't do it all, in 1 year. Now, maybe if you had the number 1 pick in the draft and it was one of those generational kinds of players, then yeah, overnight it changes. But it did take us, 2 or 3 years, and that's where we are today. Like I said, I like, the talent that's in the system. I think Greensboro is going to continue to be really important, for us to develop the players that we drafted, and not only this year's rookies. I mean, we can put to Greensboro even maybe a rookie or two from last year. They've got to play and they've got to develop. That's how we're going to improve this team. Now we did get lucky, a year ago with Gordon, and this year with Kelly. We didn't expect to be in the free agent market for a player of that caliber either. Now maybe, Gordon being here, Kelly looked at it and said, wow, then maybe I can go there and play. And maybe he looked at Melo's Rookie of the Year and said, hey, I could go there and play with that kid. For whatever reason, we did get 2 free agents, but we had the financial flexibility to do it. And that's what we have to do going forward. We have to still use our picks. We've got picks. Look at the trade market, which we're not doing now. We'll do that later in the season if we have to. And then count on the draft.